Well, Dan, thanks for coming on the podcast.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Justin.
Yeah, man. So for everyone that doesn't know, Dan is actually a longtime friend of mine and client, helping him on a weight loss journey, basically through transitioning to a carnivore diet.
You
So
should
how
let them
long?
know I'm a long-time friend, not a long-time client. Because if I was a long-time client, that would kind of.
Did I say long-time?
Well, you said long-time friend and client, but there could be different interpretations of that. So recent client, long-term friend, long-time friend.
That's correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
We've known each other since like fourth grade, I think.
And then maybe sooner. You played on my dad's baseball team, the Bobcats.
Right. That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then client for 2 weeks, maybe.
Yeah.
3 weeks. Okay. So I guess well, let's start on like why why we even had to get this relationship going with weight loss. Because you were very fit, like most of my time knowing you throughout high school, and in the Marines.
Yeah.
Right. And then something changed, I guess, what, late 20s, early 30s?
Yeah. So I'd say I started basically up to 25, I could sort of eat whatever I want whenever I wanted. And, I might fluctuate a little bit, but I wasn't going to get too overweight. Right. Right around that 25 age is when I began to put on some weight. And I kind of helped, but, not like I am now. I was a bit overweight, but it was like very manageable. So 27, I meet my wife and work together for a couple of years. And I put on a few more pounds. And at that point, I go to the doctor. I have blood work done. I think my son, this is before my son was born. So I have blood work done and it doesn't look great, right? So I'm like 27, 28 and, now I'm like 230, right? So a healthy weight for me, I guess just for listeners, like 205, right? So I'm overweight.
What was wrong with the blood work?
I don't know what, pre-diabetic probably. I can't recall, but it didn't look good, right? So this doctor, she's kind of like interested in alternative medicine. She's open to new ideas. So she put me on like kind of a paleo focused diet, right? Basically just like, hey, I want you to really reduce carbs, not necessarily keto, but like, let's just eat vegetables, fruit, and meat. So I did that. And, yeah, man, I started to feel better. So like immediately lost weight. And, from there, I started listening to, so this is maybe 5 years ago at this point, right? Started kind of getting into the keto world, realizing I was actually doing better when I was eliminating, really limiting fruits and vegetables. So then I'm kind of getting into the keto world, kind of getting into carnivore, and I kind of just try carnivore as really more of an experiment. And I did well on it, man. I did really well. I was in phenomenal shape. I had blood work done after almost a year of eating like strict carnivore. Not like I would never cheat, but like basically just eating meat.
Sure.
But it looked phenomenal, significantly better than it had when I was eating a sad diet. And yeah, man, I was in really good shape for a couple of years, maybe 3-4 years. I mean, I had maybe had some fluctuation periods, but for the most part, I looked good and I felt good. Somewhere along, COVID hit. Okay. That's the key indicator.
Okay.
COVID is the line of Dan Skinny pre-COVID, Dan Lardo post-COVID. All right. So COVID hit. That limits my physical exercise. So at that time I was doing a lot of BJJ, super, super into it. Right. I was riding my bike all the time. COVID hits and I'm still basically doing what I'm doing, but then there is that, the Game Changers documentary, the vegan documentary. Are you familiar with it?
Yes.
Okay. And I was like familiar. You gotta remember, I'm like in the carny world at this point. So I'm like kind of aware of the danger or of all the bad things that people say about vegans, right? But I'm also a guy that likes to see what I can get from like I always like to experiment, and like sometimes I like to experiment with my body, right? So I thought, you know what? Let me try like I'm a sucker. I'm not that much of a sucker. I didn't buy everything hook, line, and sinker, right? But like I did think the documentary was very interesting. I'm going to be honest with you. And I said, let me try a vegan diet, right? Maybe this is something I could do as sort of an offset, a cleanse for certain periods throughout the year. That was kind of the idea going in, just see how I feel. And then I'll go back, right, to a mostly meat diet. So I try a vegan diet and I feel okay. I felt okay. Like honestly, the first couple months, I say I felt good, right? It didn't like work. It wasn't sustainable. So but basically, so it was like 2 months, right? And then I tried to go back to meat based and it didn't work, right? I had almost lost, I know it's hard to believe, but I almost lost my palate for meat during that time. And I think I sort of developed, for lack of a better term, a sugar or carb addiction. Since then, I've basically tried to go back to Carney. I mean, now we're looking at 3 years, and I've had, I keep on going back to the carbs. At this time, I stand at about 262 pounds. I think when we first started talking, I was about 270. So I'm down 8 pounds, but that makes me morbidly obese. I had blood work done. It's terrible, as you might expect, right? And yeah, I mean, like it is, I mean, I don't know. That's kind of where we're at now, but I'm happy to jump into anything specific within that story or go where you want to go.
Yeah. So you were meat-based, you were healthy, you were doing BJJ, they shut down, the world basically. So it kind of
Right.
like ruined your exercise routine.
Sure.
Was it just an experiment to go vegan, or was there like, hey, I'm trying to even feel better than I feel now, or is it just to do something different?
Yeah, well, I mean, I wasn't like I'm not going to experiment with heroin, right? Like you know what I mean? Like I know that's not going to work out well. So yeah, it was totally like, well, shit, maybe this is better, right? Or like, not that it's better, but like maybe it makes sense to like offset some of the, potential organ damage. My dog. With a vegan diet, maybe for a couple months, let's say 3 months. So I'm doing like a 9 and 3 type of thing. So yeah, like totally. I wasn't like trying to harm myself.
Right. So then with that, so you do it for 2 months and just cut out meat. Like, was it just cold turkey jumping into vegan?
Oh yeah, totally.
Okay. And you felt pretty good, but then what? Well, what wasn't sustainable about it after the 2 months?
Oh yeah, well I noticed my energy levels sucked, and I was getting fat. You know what I mean?
You were.
I was binge eating. Yeah, I was binge eating again, which I was not even a part of my life when I was eating carnivore. Maybe if I was drinking or something, you know what I mean? But like not really. But yeah, I was just putting on weight. I looked like shit, right? My skin was kind of like nasty. I actually developed an autoimmune disorder. Like I should have told you that. But yeah, I have like really bad psoriasis right now. I think that's the term, right? Yeah. And it started developing around that time. So yeah, I just had like immediately pretty negative side effects from it.
Okay. Wow. Yeah, I didn't know that.
Yeah, I don't know if I'll send you pictures. It's it looks like a murder scene on my leg, to be honest. Like, it's scary to look at, I'll be honest.
Still there?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Absolutely. It's feeding on the yeast. Yeah.
I've heard that the carnivore diet actually can clear that up.
It absolutely can. That's like one of the biggest things that people like when people talk about like the meat healing you, right?
Yeah.
That's like one of the most common things I think that it cures.
I know. It's something that's always on my mind is like, does the meat heal you, or is it the removal of the other things that is healing you? It's like, is the meat really just I believe that it is like a superfood because it has so many vitamins and minerals and things that you can't get from essential things that you can't get from plants without supplementation. And then another part of me thinks this other stuff is just for certain people poisoning them a little bit.
I definitely think the latter. I 100% think the latter. I think that like a major part of the efficacy of the carnivore diet is the elimination aspect. 100%. Like I just don't do well with carbs, right? Like I feel if I eat carb, I've struggled with mental health, right? That's another thing we could talk about if you want. I'm pretty open about it. But like, and that was also part of why that original doctor wanted to be on this diet. But like, yeah, dude, I'll feel like a physical and mental reaction almost immediately. Like if I were to go downstairs and eat a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, I'm going to bed and I'm gonna have probably a pretty serious panic attack. Like that's what's gonna happen. Yeah.
And you believe that's carb related or just certain foods that happen to have carbohydrates?
No, it's definitely carb related. But I guess if we're being fair to the veggie people, like highly processed white bread is definitely going to be worse than like if I had some broccoli, right?
Right. It's all bad. There's just levels to it.
Right. Exactly.
Okay.
Because remember, I was doing well when I was eating, let's say 80-20 meat, veg, fruit, right? Let's say 80 meat, 15 veg, 5 fruit, right? Something like that.
Yeah. And that's a great diet for, I think, maybe most people.
Totally.
But when you have like autoimmune or, especially and then mental health challenges can be worse. Like some people I feel like just need to go the extreme route.
Well, yeah, dude, like that's like my personality type, right? Like everything I do to extremes, right? Like for better or worse, right? Like, my business, I'm extreme about it. You know what I mean? Like I think that is a huge part of my success, right?
Yeah.
And with with dieting, I wanted to see, hey, how can I push myself, right? And I had awesome success. Of course, then kind of with that extreme mindset, kind of really lost my health, right? In the process.
Yeah. So then, okay, so let's talk about, because it is extreme. You're right. You're like pretty much carnivore or keto or ketovore or whatever. There's all different kinds of names for it now. Then you go vegan, right? It's like the opposite end of the spectrum. And then you're like, crap, this isn't working. Try to go back to carnivore. Like, what was so hard about coming off of the vegan diet?
Well, dude, honestly, it's a struggle today. Like, I just love carbs. You know what I mean? Like, I crave carbs. So, like, a lot of times what I would do is, oh, man, I'd go out, I'd buy all this meat, I'd eat good for a couple days, and then, like, at night, like, I would get my calories, and I would even, like, intermittent fast the entire day. I'd eat a big meal, right? Just meat. And, like, that's how I used to operate that just period for, like, a really long amount of time. And yeah, like, I wouldn't sleep, which is, I'm sure, a contributing factor, but like, it's almost like you'd feel the best way I can explain is it's almost like you lose control of your body, right? There's almost like you become someone else, and it's just like, I don't care. I'm going to get these carbs. Like, I'm going to eat these carbs, and I'm going to eat them until my stomach hurts. Right. Yeah.
And did you have any of that, like these carb cravings or like food addictions, things like that before going vegan for 2 months?
No, but I would say, like, I've always been a big eater, right? Like, even we went to dinner the other day, right? Or we went to lunch the other day. Like, of course, I got the surf with the turf, right? Like, I am a big eater, and like, I don't, when I was thin as a kid, I was a big eater, right? Like, I've always had a nice big appetite, right? But I don't, and even like at times at night when I was a kid, I would maybe like smash a good amount of food, type of stuff like that. But like on carnivore, again, maybe if I had a couple of drinks, something like that, that would kind of trigger something. Not that I was drinking often. I'm just trying to like be totally fair to some detractors, right? I wouldn't say it never happened.
Sure.
But like certainly not enough to like affect my health or my weight, right?
Right. Yeah. it seems like the more of the consequences came after trying to go vegan. And now what it seems like to me is like it's sort of becoming a almost like it's almost like a drug, the carbohydrate.
It feels that way.
Yeah.
I mean, it feels that way,
It's like
right?
Oreos are vegan. That's something that's like always talked about. Right. So like a lot of
Yeah,
these vegan foods, it's not just like mangoes and celery or whatever.
right.
It's
I
all
think
kinds
the
of
thing you
BS
have
we're allowed
to the thing you have to realize about, like, listeners should realize about vegans is, like, it's not a diet, it's an ideology, right? It's not that different than a religion, right? And these people who are vegans, and like, even though I was doing a vegan diet, I was really just eating plant-based. Like, I always thought the ideology was stupid. Like, I wasn't like anti people eating meat. Don't care about animals or anything, you know? I'm just kidding. Yeah, I don't anthropomorphize animals. I actually want to speak clearly here because this is an important point. Let me not make jokes. So it's important to understand, like, you got to think about, you look at it from their framework, right? They firmly believe that the value of any animal, right? Any sentient animal, any sentient being, right, is as valuable as your life or my life, right?
Right.
So let me ask you a question, right?
Sure.
If you had to lie to me, even tell like a little bit of a lie, in order to get me to stop murdering people, because I was murdering people almost every single day, would you do it?
Right. Yeah, of course.
Of course you would do it. Every reasonable person would do it. That would be the ethical, moral thing to do.
Right.
When you look at that from their framework, they will say anything they need to say to get you to eat a vegan diet, because they think that they're committed to the belief that you're engaging in murder on a regular basis, right?
Right.
So when you think about it that way, like, it makes sense, like, why they
Burning.
realize, like, a guy like me isn't like dumb enough to buy into that ideology, but like, I might be dumb enough to think I can save my health by eating this way, right?
You were just trying to optimize your life experience
Exactly.
more than buy into the ideology. The other part of that ideology is that for some reason the world is going to like burn or something from eating cows.
Yeah, I don't.
Which is, I guess, animal agriculture, I think, accounts for 14% of carbon emissions, and 80% of those are coming from third world countries.
Yeah, I mean, dude, like, I don't know enough about this topic. Like, I want to speak about things that I'm really confident speaking about, right? So, like, on that subject, like, I could speculate a bit, and I think it's might be worth, like, so here's the problem, right? If we're gonna like entertain this idea of like carbon emissions, which like I do to an extent, like I would consider myself a conservationist, right? In order to produce vegan diets, right, that, like, let's say like America, that like the average American is willing to consume and can like kind of do all right on, right? The amount of processing and waste that's going to go along with that is going to far exceed what we're producing from animal agriculture. You understand what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like, think about what goes into like making a vegan burger, you know, or like vegan meat, right? Like, think of how much waste goes into that, right? Like, from like the people driving to the factory, right? Like the people farting in the the machines used, right? The packaging, all of that, the trucks coming, right? All the waste that goes into that. Because like a lot of times vegans will say things like, oh, well, you could feed the world on this. It's like, yeah, but the world, like, people aren't actually going to eat just potatoes, you know? And like, that's kind of like the premises. That's like some of the, like, sorry, that's like the premise of some of their arguments is like, we can feed you on like carrots and like, but like, that's not how people would eat vegan if they like were eating it, if it was eaten in mass, right?
Right.
It's like the, like law of like unintended consequence. I feel like people don't really think much about that.
It seems like and it's also an extremely what seems to be an extremely unnatural way of eating.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, they'll say like, well, like, just because something's natural, it doesn't mean it's good, right? True to an extent, I guess. I don't necessarily disagree.
Yeah, It's funny. I got into some vegan was on my page, causing a shitstorm about one of my posts, and it was basically what you said in the beginning, which was they value a pig's life, a cow's life, the same as they would value anybody else's.
Right.
So to me, that's just like fundamentally just incorrect.
Yeah.
Right? Like if you're gonna, I mean, when I would save like it's like the whole like burning, like a house is burning down, right? Like you're gonna save
Right.
and pet rabbit or something before you save like a child.
Right.
That's gonna be a hard decision for you. I mean, we don't even value human life on the same plane because like you gotta, like first would be your family, right? And then friends, and then strangers, and then So I think it's just, I think it's illogical. It's incorrect, and I don't even know if they believe it.
Well, I don't think they do, right? I think like deep down, and not to psychoanalyze too much, but I think deep down they don't, because like then they might engage in like kind of like crazier acts than they already do, right? Like again, imagine like you genuinely believed I was like murdering people all the time, right? Like you, even as a friend, you'd be like, all right, dude, I gotta like take this guy out. And let's say like the cops were cool with it, right? You might be like, all right, you know what? I'm gonna visit Dan and I'm gonna poison him, right? Like you might do something like that.
And it would be the right thing to do.
Yeah, exactly. But I wanted to say, man, this is important. On the vegan thing. Shucks. Okay, about the value of life. So like here's a few things I say. It's like, first of all, if you're going to basically grant the same right to life, right? Same right to life and privileges that humans have to animals, right? I mean, first of all, that implies superiority, right? Because you're the one granting that value. Like you're determining that value. So there's an implied superiority, right? That's the first thing. But the second thing is like, then there should also be like, there should also be the same degree of culpability, right? Like if my life is no more valuable than a chicken, right? Then like, why is it okay for chickens to murder things constantly, right? Murder, rape, steal, right? Like those should all still apply. You know what I mean? Lions, they're just gruesome murderers. Like, why would there not be the same culpability? Like, it's not that we don't, you know what I mean? Like, we still hold people accountable, even if they're like mentally deficient. You know, that couldn't be the argument, right? It would still be a gruesome crime or it still is a gruesome crime when somebody who is mentally deficient commits a crime when a human does it, right? So why wouldn't you apply the same thing? Why wouldn't you apply the same kind of accountability to animals, right?
I guess the argument that I've seen and have spoken to people like this are like, well, we are so smart and so much better, I guess, than the animals that we can create a place where we don't need to eat them. Like we're so far removed from being animals.
Yeah. Okay. But then if that's your position, you've already granted the premise of superiority.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
100%.
And then I don't want to hear that me eating animals is murder, right? Then you're putting humans in their own special class, as you should, by the way, right? And now it's not murder. Now we can have a separate discussion, right? Now you still might think it's unethical, right? But I don't want to hear the argument about, oh, a turkey's life is the same as my life.
Yeah, I talked to someone. I said, this is just really, it's like you're on a species inappropriate diet. You know, we've been eating this way for so long as omnivores that it's just like completely unnatural, evolutionarily speaking. And in their mind, they were saying, well, I want to start the change.
Right.
Yes. So like if I eat plants and then for the next 10,000, 50,000, 100,000 years, all my kids just eat plants.
Right.
And we will evolve in some sort of way to just be plant eaters. But I think it's just crazy not to live the most basically to optimize your life through eating a species appropriate, a proper human diet now versus like almost putting yourself at a daily detriment to not feel as good, not make as much money, not have as much energy for
Right.
you and your family because of some creatures that don't even, I mean, I love animals, but creatures that don't know you exist that would eat you if
Right.
if you were just lying down in a pasture dead or somewhere,
Right.
go ahead and pick on you.
For sure.
Um, it's a nice thought, but it seems like it's in cloud cuckoo land to me.
Yeah, no, for sure. And like, well, it is, right? Because like this whole ideology, and I don't want to get like too political with it, but it's like, it's not like it's not accidental, right? That like most vegans are urbanites, right? Because like people who are like actually brought up around animals, who like see and interact with animals, like understand what animals are, right? But if you're like a wealthy girl from Ramsey, New Jersey, right, where we grew up, and you grew up on like Disney, right? Like I think that can have like I think that does play a role in like establishing these like very odd, unhealthy relationships with animals, even like dogs, right? Like that's something I love dogs, right? But like you see it, like people are like, oh, you have working dogs. Like, well, what do you mean? Like you put your dogs at risk? It's like, yeah, dogs are tools. I love them. I treat them well, but they're tools, right? But it's like to the people in these areas, dogs are like your precious little pet, your little scruffykins, your fur baby, right? So it's this really like unhealthy, anti-human relationship with animals, which kind of like it's both like degrading to humans, and in a sense, it's degrading to animals because I think it kind of strips them of what they are. You know what I mean? It kind of like makes them into humans in a process, but also it brings us down and it raises them up. But in both instances, I think it's disrespectful to the species.
That's interesting. You made me think of like country vegan.
Yeah, right.
I haven't seen it yet.
Yeah.
I'm not sure it's out there, but it's
no, for sure, for sure.
Rare.
Yeah,
for sure. This is definitely an urban thing, a city thing.
100%. And also, you got to remember, dude, like it's manageable when you live in New York City, right? Like or around here where there's Whole Foods and shit, right? Like you can buy the food you need. You can get really solid meat replacements. You can get all your like quinoa nonsense. You know what I'm saying? Like
Right.
when you're in the country, it's like, all right, I guess I could eat like ramen, but actually maybe not. I don't even know if ramen's vegan. You know, like your options are super limited. You know.
Yes, it's true. And also it just reminds me, like if I was ever, or just the average person, or if you were ever just stuck for some reason, you went on a hike and you got stuck and, for a few days or whatever, or a week, and you had to eat something, like what would be the first thing that the average person would be looking to eat?
Okay, so I actually think initially somebody's gonna forage, right?
Really?
Look for I think
Because
they're
like
gonna try to find
I
a
walk through
berry.
the woods, I don't see anything edible.
Well, yeah, I mean that's a discussion that we had the other day. How it's like, go find something that you think is safe to eat in the woods. Like, good luck, you know, like good luck doing that. You know,
And then
you're
just
gonna find some berry. You're
like,
gonna look for an hour, and you might find a berry, and you're not gonna eat it because you're gonna be like, that might kill me.
right.
You know, like that.
Exactly.
That's kind of what it is.
Exactly.
But you're right. Like maybe after one day, you're gonna start scavenging. Maybe two days, I think, is when you're gonna start scavenging. 3 days, you're gonna start trying setting up traps and stuff. And you're gonna eat it raw. You might even eat the fur.
Yeah.
Right. And you're gonna enjoy it too. You are.
Yeah, because it's literally saving your life.
Yeah.
Okay. So, all right, maybe that's enough on vegans.
Sure.
You have anything to add?
No. I mean, look, some of them are all right, And by the way, if you want to destroy your health eating vegan, that's fine. I just leave me alone. I don't want to.
Yeah. 100%. Do whatever you want to do.
Right.
And if it makes you feel better, then fantastic. But
right.
I don't think it's a proper human diet, and you're probably not optimized without a ton of supplementation. So to me, it's an indicator that you may not be eating the right things if you have to take supplements and tons of supplements.
Yeah.
Just one, it's like it would be several. So they're obviously just missing from your diet. And that's what I've noticed. Like I have a a supplement cabinet basically. And I've bought every single supplement ever. But ever since going meat-based and then like moving over to carnivore, the supplement, like there's really almost no reason to be supplementing with anything. So I've gone from taking like several things to really lowering that down to, sometimes I look at it, I'm like, I don't even know if I need any of this stuff.
Right. What is this stuff again?
Yeah, exactly. Because I'm also like, my gut feels fine. Like my mental health is better. So like everything that I was taking to like help with those things, it's not necessary anymore.
Right.
All right. So as far as like, let's talk about like what's been working so far. So because we've been working together for 2 weeks now.
Yeah, I think we're going on our third week.
This is about to be the third. Okay. Okay. So I know one thing that really surprised me, because you were like, I'm 270 pounds, but I intermittent fast every day.
Yeah.
And I was like, this doesn't add up to me.
Right.
So we wound up making a change around that to sort of cut down on the carb cravings at night.
Yeah, for sure. And I think like honestly, it's something that I should be like careful talking about, because I think I'm like a very atypical case, right? And I honestly I like believe in intermittent fasting. The thing is, I did it for so long that I think my body sort of adapted to it, right? Like here's my thinking, and like this is not based on, this is just what I think. Because just to give people an idea, like I have to force feed myself in the morning, because I got so used to not eating until like 6, 7 p.m. I wouldn't eat the entire day and I'd feel fine. But I think what was going on was my body was saying, so I'd eat at 6, 7, and I'd say, hey, this motherfucker is not going to eat for a long time. Right. So like 1 o'clock hits, like, hey, remember, he ain't eating for like close to 24 hours. You better get that food in, And I'd smash like 4,000, 5,000 calories. And let me tell you, like, I understand that some people are going to say, no, you cannot gain weight intermittent fasting. I assure you that if you can eat like I can eat, that you can gain weight intermittent fasting. All right. Challenge accepted. Challenge accepted. So what we're doing now, like what did I have for breakfast? I had butter, like a good amount of butter, 2 eggs, and protein. And coffee. And what I did, actually, it's kind of nice. Microwave the butter, put the eggs in, then put the protein powder, mix it up, put a little bit of water, kind of gross, but it doesn't really do anything to it. And it just makes it a little bit less viscous, I guess. And yeah, it's a nice little breakfast.
This is the egg coffee that you told me about?
Yeah, well, you could do it with coffee. I didn't do it with coffee this time. Okay. But yeah, sometimes I do that. Sometimes I do that, and instead of like, I'll just pour that into the coffee, and it actually does a great job of cutting the bitterness.
And then other mornings, I see you're doing steak with butter, a couple of eggs.
Yeah, so like steak can be a little bit heavy for me, because I feel like I have like a very gentle belly. So like if I'm gonna eat steak, I don't want to eat more than 4 ounces before like 2, 3 o'clock.
Right. So then starting the day with, it's like a ton of fat and protein, like, and I know it's hard to get down, because like once you start intermittent fasting, it's almost like your stomach is smaller or something. Yeah. You're just not hungry in the mornings. So we introduced the breakfast just to get as much protein and fat in the beginning of the day as possible.
Right.
And how is that helping you later in the day?
All right. So like I'm going to be totally honest with you, because I think honesty is super important. I don't like it. And like, I feel like my energy levels are a little bit lower right now. Yeah. I'm just being honest with you. Right. However, I think it's really helping with the binging. Right. I find myself less hungry in the evening, right? I could eat like a reasonable dinner. And then I don't have those kind of bizarre cravings, like the zombie-like cravings of like walking to the fridge and just like, you know, like I could show, dude. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, if you were, and like, I've spoken to other people, so like, I know this is a thing, but it's, dude, it's almost like you feel like a thief, right? Like I'm like listening for my wife, you know what I mean? Because I don't want her to know, because I know she's gonna be upset. She sees me binging, right? She's worried about my health, but it's like, you know, so I'm really quiet, right? There's been times where I would DoorDash, and I'd tell the guy like, hey, I'd put in the notes like, please leave it on top of the car, because I don't want the ring to go off. Right, the Ring doorbell to go off, my wife to see it. So yeah, dude, like that is mostly gone. Also, I think my sleep is much better. Now, I don't know if that is how related that is. I've just like really focused on like get to bed before midnight, wake up early, right?
Yeah.
Because I think sleep is a big factor.
Yeah.
I think sleep's kind of huge in all this.
It's interesting. That DoorDash story is wild.
Oh yeah, dude, I can tell you.
There's a shame, you know, a shame connected to it. It is like I mean, it's almost like doing a drug.
Bro.
Yeah, you know you're not supposed to. You know it's bad for you, but you can't stop.
Oh yeah, bro. Absolutely. And it's like, and in the moment, like also you get the same kind of like, not that you're like intoxicated, right? But you get the same kind of euphoria. Right, like I know of people, and I want to be clear, I am not this person, right? I've heard of people, it's not that uncommon for people to actually get erections when they binge eat, which like it's also not uncommon for people to get erections before they do drugs, also like super drug addicts. It's not that uncommon.
Whoa.
Yeah,
I've never heard that.
Super weird. I know, gross, super weird, but like interesting, you know. And really I think like sheds light on like, you know, I don't want to like throw around addiction too like flippantly, because addiction is a really serious thing. At the end of the day, like I always have control, and every time I've eaten, I've made a decision to eat, right? And like own it. You need to own that. Like the reality is I could have stayed not fat, not healthy. I could have stayed not fat and eaten a vegan diet, right? So I do like, you know, people think I'm like, oh, it's not my fault. No, every time I ate, it was my fault. You know,
right?
But
and it just makes it harder,
and
harder to get rid of those. Like the cravings are just so high that the amount of willpower it takes is just so much more. And if you don't have that much left in the tank at the end of the day, you're gonna say fuck it.
Exactly. It's like
entertainment as well, where you might just be bored.
Right.
I've certainly eaten because I'm bored, or like, hey, this is what I do. Like when my wife and I watch Netflix, like we make a pizza, and it's just because, like, remember smoking cigarettes? When I get in the car, I light up a cigarette. When I have a coffee, I light up a cigarette.
Totally.
These triggers all around you. Yeah, it's interesting. So then,
I guess if I'm going to draw up a parallel with addiction again, it's like, you know, you can not drink and be a bartender, but it's going to be a hell of a lot easier to not drink if you're not a bartender, right? And it's like, you could definitely not, me personally, I could definitely not be fat and eat a vegan diet, but it's going to be a hell of a lot easier if I eat a meat-based diet for me, right? I'm not like speaking for other people.
Right. And part of that is the satiety, which we should definitely talk about. But one thing I suggest to just the average person is don't bring this stuff in the house. You know, whatever, if you're gonna have vegetables and fruit in the house, but like don't bring the processed foods in the house. Don't bring candy in the house. It's too hard. Like your visual environment has more of an influence on you than you think. So if you're gonna set your home up for success for your diet, just bring the things that you're supposed to eat in. It's going to be too hard if the Pringles are not even in the cabinet, but outside of the cabinet, right there, just ready for you to grab. It's too tempting.
Right. Yeah. I mean, and that could be difficult with like kids and stuff. I mean, I do have 2 kids, right? My wife is like not into this. It's very much like a me thing. Although I did get her to be open to eating more meat, but you know, I'm not, you need to like, it's hard when you're like a big fat
transition.
Yeah, but like, you know, I'll have to get thin for, you know what I mean? Now I'm like, you're, you know, she's thin, and I'm like, oh, you got to change your diet, you know, big walrus telling her to change her diet, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, like, you know, that is, you know, I guess I'm just thinking about other listeners who have kids and stuff, or a wife, or whatever, who's not open to it, you know. But like, you know, you could kind of encourage them to get, like, I don't know, I guess less of like the nummy fat snacks, right?
Yeah.
Like
And
my wife has seaweed in there,
you
you
know,
know.
if you're struggling, and be like, listen, like, this is going to work for me. I believe that this is going to work for me. Like, would you consider doing
Right.
this with me? Or would you consider like not bringing XYZ home? And I feel like, you know, most spouses would make some sort of, you know, would help in some sort of way. I've noticed that, you know, my family just thought I was kind of crazy for doing it. But then, you know, you post pictures, or your, you know, videos of you lifting a bunch of weight in the gym, or you're finally, you know, not sleeping at 2 p.m. because
Right.
your stomach hurts or whatever, and you've got no energy. And then they're like, oh, like, maybe there's something
Right.
to this. So you have to really lead by, you know, don't force this on anyone, but just, you know, lead by example. And then people start to become interested.
Totally. And even speaking of that, dude, like I was talking to you about my kids the other day. I think because I
Yeah.
brought them up. Like I think it's so interesting. Like they love steak, dude. Because like even throughout this process, you gotta remember, like, that vegan window is very short. I've still like eaten a lot of meat, right? It's just the problem is being consistent with it. And like you can kind of like see, like, they like crave it. And I think it's like really common for people to, like, first of all, be very careful. I shouldn't need to say this. Be very, very careful feeding young children meat, please. Like steak specifically. My kids are 4 and 2, and I have no problem giving it. Just be careful. All right. I'm not saying you just hand them a steak. But like, yeah, like, dude, they're obsessed with it. I mean, granted, like, I cook a mean steak, but it's literally like to the point that sometimes I have to hide it a little bit because I'm like, yo, I'm trying to eat my, you know what I mean? Like, you got your dinner over there, buddy, right? But of course, I'm never gonna say no. But yeah, like just the other day, you know, I'm cutting steak and it's like one for Daddy, one for John, one for Anna, right? Boom, 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 you know. And it's like, you know, kids obviously want to please their parents. They want to seem adult. They want to seem mature. But like, you can tell when a kid's BSing, when a kid's not. Like, they love it, right? And I just think if more people were to introduce meat based at a younger age, I think a lot of kids would be healthier, and I think more open to eating a meat based diet later on.
Is there anything your kids really don't like to eat?
Yeah, dude, vegetables. Yeah, I don't know if I'm with you on that one, but yeah, they don't like vegetables.
It's interesting. It's almost like the palate is telling you something, but
Yeah, but here's the thing: like, they love candy. You know what I mean? Like, it's the
yeah,
palate.
well, I that's where my head went first too. But candy was designed
It's true.
to
Okay, that's
manipulate.
fair. Yeah.
Right.
And candy mimics like fruit, which is like a really scarce resource that, like, when you did find it, you should eat it, right?
Yes. Like, think about Skittles, right? And they're so colorful too.
Right. That's a good point.
Perfect orange, or the perfect apple, or the perfect
Right.
grape, or whatever that you would find.
Right. But yeah, like, dude, like, no doubt, like, my son will like smash double cheeseburgers. I think it's like, honestly, just because like I always am like, I've been like, since, you know, 4, my son's oldest is 4. So like I've been open to like meat based since he was young. And I've always kind of encouraged meat, and like, dude, he'll smash like a double cheeseburger like nothing. And like, honestly, at his age, I don't care that he's eating the bread. Enjoy the bread, right? Whatever. I want him eating the meat and the cheese. Dude, my daughter, same thing. I brought home her burger the other day. She just ate it, you know? And I'm like, yeah, if you don't introduce this stuff when they're like 6, like, they're going to be way more open to it, right? Like, by that time, they already had like developed their like freaking carb addiction, you know?
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And one thing that we did want to touch on is like the satiety. So it's like we're reducing like the, you know, carb cravings and things like that. So like, what have you noticed, like, when if you're just going to grill up, I don't know, a ribeye or like a 16-ounce whatever at night, what have you noticed about craving other foods after that, if you're just doing pure carny that day?
Yeah, for sure. I think that's like one of the biggest, like, when we talk about like what we should be eating, what's like a biologically appropriate or evolutionarily appropriate diet, I think this is like one of the best arguments, because like when you're a guy like me, I can smash, and I'm not like joking, I could easily smash a large New York style pizza, no problem, absolutely no problem. And I could eat in a couple hours, it won't, that could be my lunch and a dinner. I'm going to eat a whole bunch. Right. But when you eat the steak, you're just like a 16 ounce. For me, it's like 16 ounces. Right. You're genuinely satisfied.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I mean, even less than that sometimes, to be totally honest. And when somebody who like can eat a lot and struggles with carbs, like I think it's kind of huge in the transition process, right? Just like knowing that like it might be expensive, but I know that if I eat this ribeye, right? I know if I eat this $40 ribeye, I am not going to crave anything, right?
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. I noticed the same thing, even to the point where if like I've made too much steak, because I don't weigh it out, but usually I'll eat, I'd say like a pound for lunch and then maybe a pound to a pound and a half
Really?
for dinner. So I'll have like 2 to 2.5 pounds a day, and that's not eating nothing else. It's just meat the whole day. But sometimes I'll make too much steak and I just don't finish it, and that is something that one has always been like forced on us since childhood. You got to eat everything, whatever. There's kids in China or Africa that are starving or whatever. That's one part of it, but the other part of it is like it just shuts down the feeling of being hungry, where you're like when you had, maybe if you go out to eat and you have there's always like a 4 ounce or a 5 ounce steak, and then you got your French fries or sweet potato fries, and then maybe, I don't know, whatever else would be served with that, like some mushrooms or some broccoli or whatever.
Sure.
All of this like variety. And then like I would notice myself, I would eat my steak, I would eat the side of broccoli, and then I would crush all of the fries.
Mm-hmm.
And then if I wasn't hungry for the steak, I would just eat some more fries, and that would make me hungry again. And then I can go back to the steak or I can go back to the broccoli. And then when dessert was served, sure enough, I still had an appetite because now it's a carb, it's a sugar, it's a different taste in my mouth.
You know what's funny? I'm a no dessert guy. Mm-hmm. Like dude, even like at my worst, you know what I've never like really been, I don't like, if I were to binge right now, no ice cream, not interested.
So you're like a salty guy.
Totally. Yeah. Like my 7-Eleven late night, going there buying stuff. I'm getting taquitos. I'm getting Pringles. Yeah. But like, and it's funny. I guess people are a little bit different, but like the sweet doesn't really scratch my itch.
Mm-hmm.
Don't get it twisted. I mean, I'll eat Chunky Monkeys and enjoy it, but like,
Sure. Yeah. I prefer salty treats too. Chips were always my big thing. I love freaking potato chips, man.
But you know what's interesting, bro, is like the way we talk about this, like it's not that different than how you talk about drugs, right? Like, let's say we were having a conversation and I was like, and I don't know, can I like get into like, can I talk about drugs? Okay. So like, let's say I was like, dude, like, oh, I really love cocaine, right? I like uppers, let's say uppers. And you were like, yeah, like uppers are cool, but like, dude, I'm really more of a downer guy, right? Like that's what really like gets me going, But you never like talk about meat that way, right? Like you could be like, man, I really love a steak. And you could like even sort of crave it, but it's not where you're just like almost this ravenous creature, right? Whereas like you are that with drugs, you are that with like chips. You're just like, oh, I was gonna have one and the whole bag's gone. You never like accidentally ate a whole steak, right? You know what I mean? It's like, oh no, the steak's gone. Like, no, it was delicious and you enjoyed every bite of it. It was conscious, right?
Yeah.
The eating process.
That's true. Yeah, I gained a ton of weight. I've just been eating too much steak.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
It's like it's not possible.
Yeah.
And then
dude, I even see with my dogs, like I know it's not a dog. I just think it's interesting because like my dogs eat So just something about dog food. Most Americans have dogs, so it's probably worth bringing up, dude.
Mhm.
Like most dog food, it's like a 60-40 split protein to carb. And the thing you got to realize too is a lot of that protein is super low quality. So and also just like the processing is like the bioavailability of the protein is super low. You understand what I'm saying?
Mhm.
So obesity in dogs is like rampant. My dogs, dude, I couldn't get them fat. They eat they're probably like a 95% protein food that I feed them. I couldn't get them fat if I like tried. I mean, maybe, right? But it wouldn't be easy. Like they're fit, they look phenomenal. Even their stool, not to get too graphic, but like that's a good indicator of health. Like dog, I think you could almost like joke about how bad dog poop smells. My dog's poop doesn't smell. I'm not making that up. I know that's hard to believe. But it's just really interesting, right?
What are you feeding them? Chicken?
Primarily chicken. Yeah. Chicken. You gotta do we do chicken quarters. We do and then we'll do our organs will all be generally beef based.
Mm.
Yeah. So
That's
our muscle meat's gonna be chicken and then our organs are gonna be beef.
Yeah.
And then I'll mix it around. We'll do some goat here and there, some lamb here and there. Throw in a little beaver if we can get our hands on it. Yeah, I let my little guy eat what he kills too sometimes, which some people don't like, but whatever.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. A lot of people will treat their dogs better than they treat themselves.
Yeah, dude, I think it all goes back to this kind of like anthropomorphism, right? And like people like think it's funny, right? They think it's funny to be like, oh, look at how good I treat my dogs, right? And like honestly, I'm probably one of those guys, right? Like my dogs eat really well. I wasn't eating really well. But I never thought it was funny. I always thought it was incredibly pathetic. It's like, dude, first of all, you are essentially playing a god role to your dogs, right? And so everything good needs to flow from you, right? Like you can't let's say you're obsessed with dogs in a weird way.
Mm-hmm.
If you're not like healthy, or if you're not around, well shit, your dogs ain't gonna be doing too well, you're gonna wind up in a shelter, so you gotta take care of yourself first, even with your kids, bro, right? It's like you want to be a great dad, well, like you better not sacrifice your health, excuse me.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's that Jordan Peterson, I think it's in his 12 rules for life or something. It says, treat yourself as if you were someone you're taking care of. And he relates it to dogs. There's something where like, if a dog gets prescribed a medication, there's like, I don't know, I'm just going to make this up, but is like 90% chance or higher that the homeowner is going to make the dog, or the dog owner is going to make the dog take that medication. And if the doctor prescribes the person a medication, it's like a 40% chance. People aren't even like taking care of themselves as much as it. So I don't know what that means, but I just thought that was interesting.
Yeah. By the way, there's vegan dog food. It's the thing. Yeah, that's the thing.
It just ain't right, dude. Like, I saw I forget where this lady was, Australia or something, but they were feeding their child a vegan diet. Like,
yeah, dude, that's common.
And the baby had all kinds of health consequences. It was like, it wasn't growing. And I think it was like by the time it was 3, it was like where it's supposed to be developmentally, like at 1. It was like years behind, and it's causing all kinds of issues. So, I guess if you are a vegan, that's cool. Do what you want to do, but like if there's an indicator that it's not species appropriate, it's that it's really going to harm your child's development. It's
for sure. And I think it's here's the thing about humans, right? Like and honestly, it's similar to dogs, and it's likely because dogs evolved with us, right? Like we're so adaptable. Mm-hmm. We can survive on trash for a really long time. I
Right.
mean, you could really survive on trash for a hell of a long time, right? And because of that, diets that are deficient in protein have been able to thrive because like a guy can live for 10, like dude, there's guys on YouTube, like I know them. Who's that cyclist guy? I used to follow him, some of them, and like they look good and like they eat a vegan diet, right?
Oh, is that
And they can
Lance?
do it. I can't remember his name. I don't even want to, I don't want to give him the rub. Somebody will know in the comments probably. But like uh yeah, like dude, like you could feed a dog a vegan diet for a while and it's not going to die immediately. And you could feed a human a diet that's vegan and it may not see those health consequences immediately because we're so adaptable, right? The problem is because you cannot die eating it, it doesn't mean it's best to eat it, right?
100%. Yeah, there's like so many things where people, well, why aren't vegans dropping dead?
Yeah.
And it's like, bro.
Well, the other thing is, dude, there are things worse than dying, right? Like we're all gonna die. It's unfortunate. It's tragic, right? Like, I know. But like there's also suffering, like look, it's not my life isn't that bad right now. Because of my weight, like I'm still able to basically do everything I want to do. Like I'm not trying to make myself out to be this like, oh, it's but like my health is already declining. I'm 33 years old. Assuming I continue to eat like this, like, and I don't die, where am I going to be 10 years from now? Let's say I don't die. Where am I going to be 30 years from now at 60? Right? Medication, maybe not able to walk, certainly can't run, all kinds of potential mental health disorders, right? So it's like, yeah, you might live, you probably will live, but like, shit, it might be so bad that you wish you hadn't, right?
It's like the frog in boiling water.
For sure.
Right. And it just happens ever so gradually.
Well, dude, like that's like honestly such an apt analogy for like my experience. Cause it's like, you gotta remember, dude, I was like 30, fit and hunky. You know what I mean? Like look better than most 30-year-olds, like super good health, competed in jujitsu, right? And it wasn't like I ate plants and the next day I was a balloon, right? No, the next day I was all right. Maybe I had more bowel movements, right? I'm like, okay, well, I kind of, more fiber, right? So yeah, it's like, but a lot of times by the time you realize it's a problem, you're like kind of already hooked, right? And I think it kind of goes back to the drug thing, right? It's like, oh no, this is an issue, but now I have a sort of like quasi dependency on it, right?
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. Yeah, we should have touched on that more, but like the excitement for certain kinds of foods.
Oh, for sure, dude.
And then how that's also been, I'll never forget it. I was at some sort of graduate party with a family, and there was like adults, and then there was kids, and one of my uncles or someone wanted all the kids to get back into the party. They were outside playing. And he kept yelling and yelling, and they wouldn't come because they were playing and having fun and being kids. And he just yells, "Ice cream!" All the kids run in.
Oh, dude, for sure. Like, look, if you ever want to bribe a kid, like, and like, there's only two types of parents who have bribed their kids and liars, right? Like, let's be real. Like, you ain't doing it with steak. You know what I mean? You're gonna do. All right, yo, listen. If you do this, I'll let you have a piece of candy. You know what I mean? Hey, listen, you do this, sure. Here's a little bit of chocolate. You know what I mean?
Right.
Even my son, like we're working on, my wife wants him like reading young. This is kind of bad, but whatever. And she's like, yo, listen, it's like a 365 page. It's actually pretty cool. So it's like every day you do a new lesson. And she's like, yeah, when we're done, you're going to go to the store and I'm going to give you a big bag and you're going to be able to buy every piece of candy in the store, any piece of candy in the store you want. And keep in mind, it's probably going to take him 2 years to finish the book, right? But like, whatever. It would be like a Halloween haul. Okay, not the end of the world, but like it motivates him. It works, Yeah,
absolutely. Playing on some sort of, I don't know, I guess like that fundamental pathway in the brain that this is a reward. I've always heard that thousands and thousands and thousands of years ago, if you found a carbohydrate, you were just so lucky. And then you found like, say, honey, and you would just gobble it all up.
Well, dude, think about
So,
this.
like, when's the next time that this is going to happen? Because we're out here hunting for whatever.
Hell yeah.
And now we just have those honeycombs on every corner. You could just make a call, or even you don't even have to call anymore.
Nah.
Go on an app and you get it
right at your door.
Get it delivered to you.
Yeah, dude. Think about this, bro. Like, this is what I always say to people who like try to make the natural diet argument for veganism. Like, before like mass ag, and let's even say like pre-industrial mass ag, right? Like, you're a hunter-gatherer and there's 100 people in your tribe, right? That's like maybe a medium-sized tribe, maybe a small, I don't know, it depends, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, you find a batch of blueberries. How many people are getting blueberries, right? And like, how many are they eating? Like not 50 maybe, and they're gonna have one. You know what I'm saying? Like,
right. Everyone.
And how often is that gonna happen, right? And then once you pick all of it, it's not like you can go back the next day and they're there again, right? Like, that might be like a couple times a year, and it's so special that it even gets to the children.
Yeah.
First gonna give it to like the elders, and then like, you know what I'm saying? Like, the kids don't need it because they're healthy, right? Like something like that, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah, we got one blueberry for each person.
Exactly. Exactly. That would be your little sweet, your little excitement, your little joy, But and again, like, conversely, right? So like, assume again you're a tribe of 100 people. Like, now you have to, like, you're a hunter-gatherer, feed them in the woods. Feed 100 people for a week in the woods. Good luck. How long before 500 acres is deforested? A couple weeks. You know what I mean?
You start eating each other.
Exactly. Now compare that to, like, I don't know, you could kill like 3 deer, and like feed everyone, if not less, maybe 1 deer, and like reach satiety with people for like a whole week. It's way more sustainable. Like, it just doesn't make sense the other way.
No, it doesn't. Well, dude, where I want people to be able to follow you on your journey.
Yeah, dude. So hit my TikTok. You could follow me on @fat_D. So it's FAT_DEE. You could see me with my shirt off. You can see my breasts. Somebody made a joke about it to me the other day on my other TikTok when I was live, and I'm like, that was a little uncalled for, but it's there.
Right.
Because honestly, I just want people to see, like, like, a lot of times there's the before and after, but you only hear the after, right? And I want people to say, no, dude, like, I'm actually fat. Like, yeah, I'm fat with my shirt on. Let me show you how fat I actually am. It's disgusting. So yeah, I'm just trying to keep it real, So yeah, @FatD, fat_D.
Okay. And then, obviously in a few months, I think it's so great because I'm sure 72% of America is overweight or obese, right? So what is that? I don't know. We got 300 something million people. So maybe there's 200 million people.
Sure.
Crazy, man. So there's a lot of, it's very, very helpful to put yourself out there like that, because there's going to be so many people that want to follow along and are going through, are having all the same issues, mental health, just issues with addiction, carb addiction, and want to lose weight and feel better. And it's a guarantee. If you get fit, whether you're, even on a, not as an extreme diet, if you lose weight and you're appropriate weight and you're fit, you are going to feel better.
Absolutely.
So, and that's on TikTok, right? Is that
TikTok?
The only place?
We're on the top.
Okay.
That's where the kids are at these days, Justin. I try to stay hip.
Yeah, you gotta get on TikToks. That's good. Well, sweet, man. Well, this is a lot of fun, and
I enjoyed it.
We will do it. There was like another hour I wanted that we could probably talk about all this stuff. But I would want to have you back in a couple months, and then start to show the after. We can discuss, what worked, what didn't work, and then kind of where you're at on the journey.
Yeah, dude, I think that'd be wonderful. I'm looking forward to it. And I think it's nice to have the added pressure, I
It
can't let you
is.
down. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah, now you have the social pressure. You put it out
Yeah.
there.
Yeah, for sure. All right, bro. It's been a pleasure though. Take care, all right?
All right, brother. You too.
Bye.